In a sunny day at the beach side, a news reporter is speaking about a person called Lim, who is the CEO of DM Financial Investments, in which Lim had disappeared with tons of money from the investments and the loans from his investors a year ago. However, the cops are still struggling to catch him as they are yet to determine the whereabouts of Chairman Lim. There are rumors going around that the person called Lim might have already escaped the country. There are so many people who are protesting at Chairman Lim, since all these people are victims of his crime, to which the police had already requested a red notice from the international police to reveal the location of Lim if they had figured it out. A person is watching this news in a smartphone, as he is enjoying himself by having a maid to pour him a glass of wine in the midday. He is the person called Chairman Lim. He raised his glass and whispers to himself, "Only fools would get deceived, while smart people like me get all the money." At midnight, Lim is sleeping happily after escaping with all that money, as he is snoring out loud and is sleeping like a baby. Someone calls him, and he slowly opens his eyes. Then a person is sitting in front of him on a chair, and Lim got startled seeing this. The person sitting on the chair inquires if Lim is happy after stealing other people's money, where Lim is traveling all over the world with a fancy yacht. Lim then questions who is the person sitting, and that person wakes up from his chair and expresses disappointment if Lim had already forgotten his voice. After seeing that man up close, sweat is pouring from his forehead, and Lim had recognized that person as director Victor Blackwood, where this Victor is the protagonist of this story, who is aged around 45 years or above. Victor states his arrival to Lim's yacht is only to collect the debt that Lim took from the Tayson capital. Lim then realizes the situation isn't in his favor, so he calls for his security to deal with Victor, yet all of them have already been taken down by Victor. Victor then speaks. The Tayson group isn't here to take Lim back to Korea. He then smiled and said, he is here to collect the money that Lim took from their company. Victor informs the loan amount is 150 billion won, and the interest for that amount over a year is 320 billion and 20 million won, which is 2 times the loan amount. So now Lim has to hand over 470 billion and 20 million won, which is $358 million according to the day's exchange rate. So Victor proposed Lim can just pay $350 million. Lim then shakes both of his hands in disapproval. He responds that he doesn't have that much money in his hands at the moment, where the only thing that he has is this yacht that he brought with the money that he is left with. Moreover, he yells at Victor for that immense interest rate, in which the interest rate is double the principal amount for a single year. He even calls the Tayson company a group of thieves, while he is one who ran with all amount he took. Lim suggests Victor to take the yacht, since that is all Lim had got in his hands right now. Then Victor looks deep in thought, clearly analyzing how to deal with Lim. Later sometime, a chain is moving vividly as if a person is tied to it, and Victor on the yacht is having a smoke. And now he tells the chain operator to pull back the person who is tied to it, and when the chain hurriedly raising back to its connector, Lim is the person who got tied to it and sent underwater to torture him. Victor is looking at a laptop and is figuring out where Lim had invested all the money that he stole. At that time, Victor detected Lim had set up the shell company in Malta, which is worth $200 million currently. Furthermore, there is one in Virgin Island, which is $100 million, and another one in Switzerland, which is $50 million. So Victor concludes that just from these 3 companies, Lim can pay all his debt that he owed to the Tayson company. But Lim is still resisting that all of it just fake, and the only asset that he had with him at this instant is this yacht. Nonetheless, without hearing to Lim's opposing, Victor is demanding Lim to transfer the amount from his laptop right this instant, as the internet is very fast from the yacht. Lim is trembling from those words where he is refusing to give that much amount, and Victor is advising Lim that Lim will gain nothing in the end if he were to become shark food, on which Lim is raising his voice by declaring that he will rather die than live without all that money. Lim now negotiates to pay the principal amount, which is 150 billion won. He clarifies to let go of the interest, due to the fact that Lim had already paid a lot of interest. So if Victor were to have the principal amount with him right now, there would be no loss for the Tayson company. After listening to that pointless theory, Victor remained silent. Then he ordered a guard to send Lim back to the underwater. And this time, they even need to pull out his underwear, where Lim is crying out and begging Victor not to take out his underwear since the sharks might eat his main part first. Lim states Victor won't be able to have the amount if Lim were to die. and Victor then replies, the money isn't the priority to him. Victor then plans to take a footage of Lim and demonstrates to all the Tayson customers to show what will happen if someone embezzles Tayson's money. After hearing such a horrific planning from Victor, Lim instantly took the laptop and transferred the money with interest, and Victor had now got a smile on his face. Now he bows his head to appreciate Lim's generosity, and Lim can contact the Tayson company if he ever needs their help, to which Lim is gritting his teeth while mumbling. He earned all that bucks like a dog, and Victor had ripped it off in a moment's breath. As Victor and his guards all have moved from the yacht and speedboat, a boat then approached near Lim's yacht. They are the Coast Guards of the Philippines. They are warning Lim to surrender as per the red notice issuance from the Korean police. Lim is cursing Victor for what he had done. Afterwards, in a mansion house, a photo frame of an old man is hanged to the wall, and 4 people are sitting in a room and conversing to each other. This old man is the current chairman of the Tayson Capital, John Wilder. He is pouring a glass of wine to congratulate what Victor had done this time. John then pats on Victor's shoulder for being able to find a person who is running all around the world on a yacht. Moreover, even the interest has been recovered. Then John's younger brother, Johnson Wilder, is also agreeing to what John said right now, because 470 billion is not a small amount. While John's eldest son is just having his drink without speaking anything, as if he was jealous, whereas his father, John, is complimenting Victor nonstop without giving a rest. Victor then responds, he just did what needs to be done and accomplished as his chairman's order, to which John is telling Victor to call them uncles when they are alone, since all of them are family. Victor is the son of John's younger sister, and John reminds Victor that all of them here are blood related to John's father, Tayson Wilder. As Victor looks at his grandfather's photo, he reminds about his grandfather's legend, where his grandfather is known as the legend of the loan shark industry. In the past, even the wealthy elites came to borrow money, where they have to bow their heads to the richest man in the South Korea. People called him the one who controlled the loan shark industry, the loan shark king, whatever it might be, cash, investment shares, stocks, real estates, foreign funds, and more, only the revealed net worth is trillions of won. Yet his grandfather didn't leave even a single asset to his maternal grandson, Victor Blackwood. All the assets were inherited by his grandfather's children, the brothers John Wilder and Johnson Wilder, and their children. John now calls his son, Rong Wilder. He questions if Rong had caught on the CEO Yoon who embezzled an apartment's construction money, to which Rong smiles bitterly and explains that he will find that person soon. Then John blurts at Rong as to how much time does he even need to find a single person. Besides, when that person had almost got caught, Rong is on drugs, so he missed him. Victor is believing Rong is the eldest son of this family, so Rong is likely to be the person who will inherit all the family's wealth. John is feeling so embarrassed in front of Victor in comparison to his son, so he recommends Victor to go take some rest for working hard. Victor obliges his uncle and leaves the room. As he is leaving the mansion, he could hear the laughs of the people inside the mansion. 30 years ago, Victor tried his best to be recognized as a member of this family, where he did all kinds of odd jobs that he was tasked to do. Nevertheless, he still couldn't be a part of the family. As Victor is driving to his home in his car, he saw a notification on his mobile which reminded him of his grandmother's ancestral right. Victor then instantly disheartened after recalling his grandma once again. Ever since he was a kid, the only person to ever treat him as a family is his grandmother, where both of them have lived together for so long. Also, his grandmother had passed away 30 years ago exactly on this day. Then Victor took some items for his dinner from a supermarket, and he received a call in that moment. It was a person called Sang, who is informing Victor about the CEO Yoon who ran away with the apartment's money, so the chairman had given an order to catch him immediately. Victor then points out to Sang that task was handed to Rong, so it has nothing to do with him, and then Sang notifies it was instructed by the chairman for Victor to finish this smoothly. Thus Victor accepted the order since it is the instruction from the chairman. When he had reached to the destination, he calls back to Sang and asks where is he, and then a few people are walking at the direction of Victor with bats and weapons as if they are ready to knock someone out. Like that, all of them have surrounded Victor from all sides. Victor deciphers the situation is somewhat strange. Then the person Sang comes into the scenario by apologizing to Victor for calling up so late at night. Victor demands an explanation as to what he is doing right now, and before he could even finish his sentence, a car is accelerating towards him at a high speed, and Victor had evaded it in an arm's breadth, and that car had crashed into Victor's car. So Victor will be rendered unable to escape from his car, just when he got up from that instance, a bat is already in near his face, and he quickly dodged it with his reflexes, and then he shoulder tackled that person and punched in another person who just approached him. But he is not in his prime, so all the remaining attackers have ganged up on him, and finally they made Victor fell on his knees. Sang then approached Victor. As Victor is rebuking Sang, a person used a wooden stick to knock out Victor completely. Later, when Victor opened his eyes, he is tied to a seat in his own car, and when he looked ahead of him, there is a door which leads to the sea. Sang then confronted Victor, and when Victor questioned him why they are doing this to him, Sang discloses that he received an order, which is to eliminate Victor Blackwood. Victor wanted to know who had commanded Sang to something like this. He guesses if it is the chairman, or his brother, or his son, yet Sang tells him, why bother about it when Victor is about to die, since Sang is obeying the order like a servant. So without any further delay, Sang opened up the gates to the sea, and all the people are pushing the car into the sea, where Victor is telling them to hold on for a moment. But they successfully push the car into the sea, and as Victor is drowning in the water, he can't believe that he is going to die like this after working like a loyal dog for 30 years. Then the items he brought from the supermarket comes out one by one. Then he recollects the promise he made to his grandma, where he needs to take care of his grandma's memorial service, but now he is on his way to meet his grandmother. After a short gap, he slowly started opening his eyes, where he is in the water and floating in it. However, both his hairstyle and clothes have changed. He then gets up from the water. He himself is in disbelief that he is alive at the current time. Then someone from his backside gave a strike to him, and he looks before him, where there are people fighting with each other. So Victor believes even the heavens are in a total chaos. As the people who look like a group of students are fighting with each other, Victor stood in the middle of it, incompetent of comprehending what's happening before him. Then the person who kicked him from backside is coming at him one more time. But this time Victor gave one good blow at his chin, to let him know that he is just a bot character in this story. Victor could sense that his body became lighter, as if he was young. Then two more people are coming at Victor's direction to keep him in check, and our protagonist just blowed them off with his skills as a guard working for the Wilder family. Then, without having a break, he just slams down everyone in his sight one by one. In an instant, he took down several opponents, which is quite a feat for an high schooler. And when there are still people who are targeting him, he just gave off a dark gaze at them, where they stood there in bewilderment, and Victor just looked at them with his cold-blooded eyes. Both the opponents could sense they have angered the protagonist of this story, so all the college students ran away by that overwhelming inferiority they received from Victor. At that time, Victor sat down by getting a bit exhausted. Then a student of the same uniform as Victor is declaring to the people who ran off to come at them at any time. He inquires if Victor is all right. He notifies that he only came here to flirt with the girls, but only other collage boys are here who also came for the same reason as looking for the girls. Victor then saw a name tag on that person's chest called James Law, and Victor remembers that name as his best friend from the middle school. Then another person wraps his arm around Victor by expressing that Victor is the best when it comes to fighting, where he fought that many student all alone. Victor recollects this man as Park Sandal. He was a friend from middle school, and Park's father is a policeman, so his father always takes care of their problems even if they make trouble. Now Victor questions where they are right now, since Victor still believes that he is in the heaven. So James knows they are in Gwangali, which is in Busan, and Victor is shocked to hear those words by thinking that he is not in the heaven. James then checks Victor's head if it is all right, and then he confirms Victor's head is as hard as a stone. Then Victor puts into question about today's date, and James updates Victor it is September 21st, 1990. Victor clearly remembers that he had fallen into the sea, but he somehow returned to 30 years ago, as both the friends are planning to visit a ramen shop to have some food. It was at this moment the date evoked Victor about something, so he is rapidly going to somewhere in a hurry. He now realizes that it was at this day that his grandmother, who he had loved so much, has passed away. His grandma had died because of a heart attack, and the doctors have appraised him that if someone had found her even a little earlier, she could have been saved. When he reached near his home, his grandmother is heading downstairs. Then she clasped his hands and questions that he is quite early today. By that sensation from her grabbing gently his hands made his mind resurface all the memories with his grandmother, where tears started to flow down from his eyes. She then touches his face and questions if everything is all right, and just by hearing her speak, made his eyes into a waterfalls where tears are flowing nonstop. He just expresses how happy he is feeling right now to meet his grandma once again, that he embraced her and said he missed her so much. Then he wipes his eyes and urges his grandma. They need to go to the hospital without any further ado. He informs that she will faint at any moment, so they need to have a small checkup. His grandma tells him that she is not sick, yet without listening to her, he insists they need to visit the hospital or she might die. Then his grandma stops him by replying, Victor doesn't need to be worried about her, since she will only die after witnessing his marriage and raising his kids. So she states Victor to head into his room, and she'll quickly prepare some food for him to eat. As a plate of food has been served before him, Grandma suggests him to eat slowly, and with a worrying face, she knows there is an ingredient missing in the food, so it might not be tasty, to which he informs her. The food had everything he likes, and he is happy to eat it. She then gets up in order to bring some juice to drink with the food. It was at this time, he realized all he needed was some simple meal prepared by his grandmother, so he questions himself why he worked like a dog for the Tayson capital. As tears are falling on the ground, he heard a sound from the kitchen as if a person had fallen down, so he hurriedly ran to the kitchen to check what happened, and Grandma had fallen down on the ground unconscious. An immense amount of rage has surged in his body after seeing his grandma in that state. He immediately admitted her into a hospital, and the doctor is appraising. If Victor is even a little late, something serious must have happened. However, the doctor knows his grandma is not completely well, and a surgery is necessary, since there is a chance his grandmother might faint once again. Then Victor checks his pockets to figure out how much money he had stored, and there are only 151 in his pockets, where in his last life he used to collect hundreds of billions. Then James helped Victor by giving off the allowance he received from his father this morning. Victor now remembers that James's father has owned a large adult entertainment place on the main street of a place called Nampo Dong. He appreciates James for his help and briefs in that he'll pay him back quickly. James and Park both were disheartened that Victor is talking about paying them back when his grandma is in extreme condition. Park speaks that they have eaten meals worth tens of thousands from Victor's grandma, so this is nothing compared to it. Yet Victor still feels unhappy about this. Victor then recollects what the doctor had said to him when he inquired about the medical fee for the surgery. Even the doctor is not completely sure, but he gave an estimation of 10 million won. Victor is surprised, where 10 million won is not a lot before he died, but at this moment all he had are a few coins in his hands. He then heads to a phone booth. By adding a coin from the 2 coins that he had, he found out a way to get the surgery fee. As the phone is lifted from the other side, Victor introduces himself and tells the other party that he has a message for Tayson Wilder. By sharpening his eyes and strengthening his voice,
I am Victor Blackwood, son of Danya Wilder, who is the daughter of Tayson Wilder, so now I want to see my grandfather.
At the Busan Hospital's rooftop, Victor is looking at the buildings that aren't the high-rise buildings he used to see back in 2020 and clears his last bit of suspicion that he regressed back to 30 years ago. He questions himself if he'll be murdered again after 30 years from now on, as how he died like last time. The most likely suspect to him is John Wilder, since only John has the guts to order Victor's subordinates to kill Victor. Yet there is still something that's bugging him out. He just doesn't know what John could gain by killing Victor, because Victor is still an useful card for Tayson's business, so he could only guess there might be someone else rather than John. So from that case, he picks up Johnson and Rome, yet he couldn't find out the culprit accurately. So he clenches his fist in preparation to find that person in this life, and believes this is his only chance to destroy the Wilder family and take over the Tayson capital. Then someone from his backside calls him. As he rotated his head onto that person, there is a man who is holding a smoke in his hand and orders Victor to stand in front of him. Victor don't recognize this man and probes for a reason as to why he should obey the command. Then that man asks what Victor's name is, and Victor questions back why that man is asking for his name. Victor ponders, that man can be a thug. Then a man beside that man is laughing that his boss is getting belittled by a high schooler, where that thug demands manners from Victor for someone his age. And Victor also believes the same, since Victor's actual age is above 45 years if it isn't for the regression. Victor then argues that the thug needs to tell his name first if he wants to know someone else's name. Then the thug introduces himself as William Roberts. Victor heard that name before his regression, where the so-called William Roberts is the second in charge of a gang called Black Vein Syndicate, which dominates the Yeung district of Busan. Moreover, William was a legendary figure in that gang, wherein just 5 years after joining the gang, he rose to the vice leader and acknowledged by everyone for the next leader position. However, around this time in Korea, a special operation has started, known as the War on Crime. So William got involved in this war of crime, where he was framed for all the crimes of his gang leader, and the police had begun chasing him for that. Later, William was found dead at a motel, where his age around that time is 29 years. So to make it clear, it is exactly this year that William is going to die. By that silence from Victor after revealing his name, William comprehended that Victor doesn't know about William at all. And Victor pretends as if he don't know anything about William, and he tells William that he looks like someone who runs a comic book store. And William got irritated by that way of speaking towards him. Now William asks for Victor's name since he told his name first as per Victor's request, and Victor responds his name is Victor Blackwood, and William wantedly calls him Victor Sandalwood instead of Blackwood. He questions if Victor is the rumored candidate of Hospital Room 405, where the hospital's buzzing with rumors of how Victor is taking care of his grandma, doing everything she needs. Victor just replies that his grandma is the only family he got, so it is natural for him to take care of her. By the uniform that Victor's wearing, William recognized what school Victor is attending. And Victor also anticipates if William is a gangster, yet William denies it, and questions why Victor is thinking about him like that. To that question, Victor answers, William's condition looks as if someone had stabbed him and put him in the hospital. Yet William denies it by saying,
"It is natural for men who had grown up to get stabbed at least once or twice in their lifetime."
Then Victor leaves the area by getting annoyed, where William annoys him even more by calling him Victor Sandalwood. As Victor is heading downstairs, he ponders the Black Vein Syndicate isn't at national level at this time, but at the same time it is not small one. So Victor realizes William could be of useful to him, because William is a gangster. When he entered into his grandma's room, there is a man dressed in black looking at Victor's grandma. When that man turned back, Victor identified him as the director of the Tayson capital called as Jackson Blaze. As the both of them are looking face to face at each other, Victor suggests to talk outside, and now the both of them are in a coffee shop. Jackson then states,
"Hello, Victor Blackwood. I am Jackson Blaze, and I work directly for the chairman himself."
And Victor already knows about it, in which Jackson is the right-hand man of Tayson Wilder. Furthermore, Jackson is a confidant of the chairman whom Tayson trusted till his death. In Victor's past life, Jackson is the one who informed Victor about his mom's father Tayson Wilder at his grandma's funeral time. Jackson proposes Victor to head over to Seoul right this instant, and Victor demands why the chairman himself hadn't come to meet Victor. To that question from Victor, even an expressionless man like Jackson is stunned to hear that, yet there is no fear in Victor's eyes. So Jackson is indeed surprised about Victor's composure, as the eyes and attitude aren't befitting of someone in high schooler's age. Jackson explains that the chairman is a busy man, so Tayson didn't have the time to meet Victor. Yet before Jackson could even complete his words, Victor interrupts and makes things clear that he wasn't asking for the chairman to meet him. Rather, he is speaking about his mother's columbarium, where Tayson hadn't visited his daughter's columbarium after her death. Victor already knows Tayson wouldn't meet him personally, since Tayson is someone who acts like a king and displays audacity befitting of a ruler. So Victor puts up a condition, in which if the chairman wants to meet him, Tayson needs to visit the columbarium first, to which Jackson is completely bewildered by that sharp tone of Victor which reminded him of Tayson himself. Also, Victor is pretty confident about himself, that even if Tayson rejects his condition and cuts off all the ties, Victor had the greatest weapon in his hands right now, which is the information about the future itself. In his past life, he had no choice but to quietly obey what the Wilder family had said, because back then, he was nothing but an orphan, and Jackson offered Victor that they will take care of the funeral's expenses, and when the funeral is finished, Victor needs to pack his bags and moves to Seoul. The chairman would only help and guarantee Victor's survival only if Victor obeys every command. So at that time Victor had no choice but to be a pawn in their hands. Yet in this life he can survive in this world without the Wilder family's help. So Victor now gets up from his seat and said, Tae-san needs to come here himself if wants to meet his grandson. He bowed his head as a gesture of respect and leaves the coffee house. By that presence of Victor that he's emitting, even someone like Jackson is feeling nervous. According to the report that Jackson received, Victor is just a troublemaker who goes around picking fights, so he concludes the report might be wrong. Victor's grandma is shocked to hear about the reason behind Jackson's arrival, and that Victor's grandpa wants him to move to Seoul. So Victor told everything about his grandma, as to how he put up a condition in order for his grandfather to meet Victor. His grandma tells him to be good with his grandfather, yet he argues that he doesn't want to do that to a person who abandoned them for 17 years. Then he hugs his grandma and tells her to not worry about him, because as long as she is fine, Victor don't need anyone else. At Seoul, in a mansion, an old man is sitting in a chair and is questioning about Victor's condition, where Jackson had said everything he discussed with Victor to Tae-san, that how Tae-san needs to visit the columbarium to meet Victor and all. The old man then smirks by having a cigar in his hand. He asks if Victor is really that gutsy, or if he is just playing some hero role. Tae-san agrees to Victor's condition. Due to the fact that Victor had successfully piqued his interest, he then stands up and makes a schedule to visit Busan and meet up Victor to see what kind of person he is. Tae-san is planning to work Victor to the bone like a damn slave for his family, but he didn't know that the protagonist will be the one to use him instead. As students are heading inside the campus, Victor then makes his entrance into his classroom after a long gap. James inquires about Victor's grandma's condition, and Victor responds that everything is alright thanks to their help. James then suggests to bunk the college and going to pool, since it's been a while Victor had come to school, but Victor rejects it and explains that he is going to study diligently from now on, as he had kept a lot of leaves this time. Then he takes out a book and pen and starts his preparation, where everyone in the classroom is freaked out by witnessing a backbencher is studying, which you cannot guarantee seeing in a lifetime. James is crying out because it is still 1990 and there are 9 more years for the world to end. Victor now remembers that studying is his last priority in school before he met his grandfather. In his previous life, as both Tae-san and Victor sitting in a quiet room, Victor keeps his head down like a fool, and Tae-san keeps his head high like a king. After seeing Victor like that where he can't even look in Tae-san's eyes, he lost his interest and concludes Victor is a good for nothing. Tae-san then tests Victor by giving him a chance to prove himself, where he needs to attend the Korean University Law School. Although with his current performance, there is no way for Victor to able to at least pass the entrance test for that university. So Tae-san gives this opportunity to Victor, where Victor can become a worthy person, so that Tae-san would at least not leave him hungry if he is able to attend that university. Nevertheless, if Victor fails in that test, it'll be the end of their relationship between the Wilder family and Victor. In that unfavorable circumstances, Victor had no choice but to get into that university to be recognized by his grandfather. He studied day and night, without giving any priority to sleep, and finally got accepted, and was able to work under his grandfather from that moment onwards. However, from that point onwards he was used by the Wilder ruthlessly, as a blood-related servant of the family. But this time things won't happen in the same way, because he would be the first one to control his grandpa, as he began his preparation for his new goal. As there are students roaming in the corridor having chit-chats, a teacher then swings a metal bat on the walls and instructs everyone to get inside their respective classrooms. This fierce-looking teacher steps into the MC's class. Then he puts the attendance book on the table. Then the class representative stood and announces everyone to bow their heads to the teacher. Then everyone greeted the teacher. The teacher then raised his voice and calls out Victor to stand before him. When Victor came near to his teacher, the teacher told him to get down on the ground, due to the fact that it has been so many days since Victor attended the school. The teacher puts into question if Victor is thinking about the school as some playground, where he can just come and go as he wishes. Victor then divulges that he had to take care of his grandma whose condition isn't good. Yet before he could even finish his words, the teacher gave a hard slap to Victor, and declares that Victor is just making up some random excuses in the moment, and he slapped him one more time, and said, A troublemaker like Victor taking care of his grandma is not an excuse that Victor could use. The teacher makes a guess that Victor might have probably drinking somewhere. So the teacher dictated Victor to get down on the ground. Victor's blood is boiling seeing his teacher's rudeness. He now calls to mind that this teacher is the homeroom teacher of his class, and this teacher nickname is AA, which means animal abuser. The reason for that nickname is AA abuses students like animals. He is slapping Victor without any break. Now that he thinks back, Victor knew why AA is behaving like this, where there is another reason for him to do this. AA blatantly demanded Victor's grandma for bribing money when Victor and his grandma visited for a meeting, as his grandma is about to hand over the money with her worn hands. Nonetheless, Victor then halted his grandma from giving 10,000 won to AA. As it is her hard-earned money, she struggled day and night for this. And that is when AA started to abuse him whenever he got the chance, throughout the first year. As Victor is about to get beaten by AA, by getting down on the ground, AA swinged his metal bat at Victor's, but very densely, and it was at this moment someone opened the door to their classroom in a hurry. It is the principal of the college. AA questioned why the principal is sweating all over his face, and the principal is asking if there is a student named Victor Blackwood in their class. Outside the school, there is black car shining brilliantly, and Jackson stood next to the car guarding the person inside it. He then opens the door for Victor as Tae-san is waiting over for him in the car. AA is terrified to see an imported car is waiting over Victor. He and all the students are imagining Victor Blackwood might be some gangster's son. As Victor set foot into the car, Tae-san is reading a newspaper without even looking at Victor. Then with his shark-like eyes, he stares at Victor and asks if he is Victor Blackwood. Even for Victor, it has been over 20 years since he saw his grandfather the last time. Victor then agrees that he is Victor Blackwood, where his father is Hive Blackwood and his mother, Dania Wilder. The corners of Tae-san's mouth have rose. By hiding his smile, he states, he came here to meet with Victor as he requested. Victor questions if Tae-san had visited his mother's grave, and the old man nodded in agreement. Victor then speaks. He heard that his grandfather never looked for Victor's mother after her passing, so he thought it would be only proper for Tae-san to visit her before coming to see Victor. Besides, his grandma, who raised ever since he was a toddler, is not in a good condition right now, so how can he leave her all alone? That is the reason why he is not going to apologize, since it is obvious. Tae-san's face had become completely darkened by Victor's response. He is just flabbergasted to see a youngster who isn't intimidated by his aura at all. I guess the protagonist has started his aura farming. Tae-san inquires if Victor knows anything about him. Victor ponders that he knew his grandpa better than what Tae-san believes. The legend of the Korean private lending industry. Tae-san came to South Korea during the war. Then he started working as a day laborer and became a power in the political and economic circles by 1970. There isn't a single person, whether it be politicians or conglomerates back then, who hadn't borrowed money from Tae-san. Even during the 1990s, he ruled over the country with trillions of won as underground money. So that is the reason why he is known as the Loan Shark King, Tae-san Wilder. Even with all these information, he tells that he only knows a little about his grandpa, where his grandpa is running a business. Tae-san, without disclosing what he does, responds that he is just running a small private money-lending business in Seoul. Victor is surprised that his grandpa is quite cunning, and Tae-san now wants to know the reason behind this meeting that Victor had to even put up a condition. Victor then covers his face with his right hand, where he is smiling like fox, more cunning than his grandpa. He is imaging the only thing that he seeks is the downfall of the Wilder family, whereas gaining an immense amount of wealth. Victor's face and desires for money reminds me of Lloyd Frontera from The Greatest Estate Developer. The best revenge he can take on the Wilder family brothers is money. So Victor is desiring to take over all of the money that the Wilder brothers are going to inherit after Tae-san's death for himself. So in order for Victor to do that, he have to privately gather funds from the Wilder family without them knowing about it. As Tae-san questions again about the purpose of this meeting and what Victor is seeking from him, Victor answers that he wants Tae-san to lend him money. Tae-san is dissatisfied after realizing that Victor is also seeking for his money. So Tae-san considers Victor as just pathetic one like everyone else he saw. So he asks how much money Victor needs, and Victor responds, for the grandma who raised him for 17 years, now requires an heart surgery. So he needs 10 million won for that. And he also yearns for 1,000,000 per month until his high school graduation, for necessities like tuition fees, survival, and other living expenses. So Tae-san concludes Victor needs 10,000,000 won right now, and 1,000,000 won every month until his graduation. He accepts that terms without a hassle, and he lost all the interest he had in Victor by realizing that Victor had brought him all the way from Seoul to Busan, just for some chump change. It was at this moment that something shocked Tae-san, where Victor declared he is not going to take all that money for free. It is just him borrowing it for a while. Tae-san then inwardly smiles at Victor's guts, that for him to speak about paying the principal amount, while he is not even in a position to afford the interest. So he is confounded that Victor is asking him for money for his school and other expenses, where it is not for free. Tae-san said, lending Victor some money is not a problem for a loan shark like Tae-san. So he describes that loan sharks don't let anyone borrow money for nothing. By opening his eyes wide open with a gaze that makes someone tremble, he speaks. Victor needs to be in a condition to pay that amount back, so he asks for a collateral or credibility for that. To his requirement, Victor replied, if Tae-san is demanding for a collateral, he points his finger on his head to show that his brain is the collateral, to which Tae-san is confused. And Victor then clarifies, if Tae-san lends him money, he'll get into the Korean University Law School, so that he'll use that as his collateral to pay his interest back. As Tae-san is dumbfounded at Victor's words, Victor is using his previous life's knowledge, where Tae-san wanted Victor to attend the university as condition to live in the Wilder family. So right now he is the one who made the offer to Tae-san. According to his information about Tae-san, his grandfather had a strong desire for academic achievement. The reason behind it is, Tae-san was so poor in his childhood, so he couldn't get proper education. As Tae-san grew older, and his business had also expanded, he became even more obsessed with his children's achievements. But contrary to his expectations, both of his sons have barely managed to get into the universities after spending a ton of money. However, his daughter managed to get into a prestigious university without any help, yet she dropped out of the college and left her father's side. So this is the justification behind Victor's proposal of getting into the law university, where it could make Tae-san happy, as his grandson getting into a university is an attractive proposal. Tae-san had already done some research on Victor, so he knew all of Victor's grades are not good enough to even pass the entrance test. Likewise, he deems Victor might be bluffing. Then Tae-san enlarges his eye and questions, what if Victor fails in proving himself? Victor ponders, he already attempted the test in his past life. Yet there is no guarantee that the same will happen this time. But right now he must have to get as much attention as possible from his grandpa. So he bets his body on the line and works for the Tae-san family like a servant for the rest of his life, if he fails in proving himself. Grandpa is amazed that Victor is giving up his body, and in that instant, Victor seeks for a present from his grandpa if he were to pass in this test, to which Tae-san is dumbfounded that Victor had something else in his mind. And Victor responds that he will reveal about what he wants when he joins the university 3 years later after his high school completion. He also states that he will be going to ask for a huge present from him at that time. Tae-san remains calm for a moment. Then slowly his lips curled upwards, and he bursts into laughing that he will be waiting to see how great of a present Victor will be demanding after 3 years. But if Victor fails in this, according to the bet, Victor belongs to Tae-san forever. Tae-san then states by releasing his aura,
"You'll have to do whatever I tell you to, whether things that'll make even fiends tremble in fear."
Likewise, Victor agrees to it, and later he gets out of the car, and Tae-san moves on from there. As Victor is brushing off the dust on his shirt, he curses his grandpa for trying to scare a kid like him, and Victor liked the idea where Tae-san mentioned about fiends. So now Victor releases his aura and imagines,
I will turn into a fiend if that's what you want. One which will tear the Wilder family into pieces.
As the car is moving on the highway, Tae-san expresses that Victor is a fun kid, and Jackson affirms what Tae-san meant by a fun kid, since Jackson too is shocked to witness Victor, as all the reports on Victor are so different from what he saw. Tae-san then describes, he met all kinds of people in this lending business, where people who don't pay back and still boldly come back asking for more, people who threatened him bringing in gangsters, and people who blackmails him by putting a knife on themselves, and even people who will sell their own kids for money. As a result, after dealing with people like that for a long time, one starts to get an idea of what kind of person someone is at first glance. Eyes, expressions, body language, tone of voice. One can pretty much tell what kind of person they are with these structures. Nonetheless, Tae-san is incompetent of figuring out the personality of Victor. Rather, he felt like he was the one getting judged by Victor instead. Jackson believes Tae-san might have taken an interest in Victor. Then Tae-san tells Jackson to head over to the Daesan hospital, where Victor's grandma is admitted. At the hospital, Victor is bowing his head to a doctor to do the surgery without any problems. And as the surgery had started, someone from Victor's backside calls him Victor Sandalwood. Then Willem warps his arm around Victor and inquiries if Victor is having 3 meals a day. He then suggests to have a smoke on the rooftop with him if Victor isn't swamped by anything. Victor feels uneasy and responds that he have to study. Moreover, he is a high schooler, so smoking is out of the question. William is shocked that his jaw had dropped when he heard Victor is speaking about studying. Willem recommends Victor to enjoy his youth while he can, and a high schooler shouldn't utter about studying. William then keeps his hand in his pocket and reveals that he hadn't been able to get education. Hence, he won't stop Victor if he is sincere about study. Then he pulls out a chewing gum and advises Victor to chew it whenever Victor feels sleepy. Like that, the funny gangster is on his way to the rooftop, and Victor reminisces, it was at this point of time. William is a well-known thug, the second in charge in a gang that commanded hundreds of members. Yet he was unexpectedly a pretty amusing guy to Victor. Then Victor looks down from the window, where there are a few people who just got down from a car, and all of them are looking like some gang members, where one of them even had a knife in his hand. Victor guesses that unknown people might have come for William, and as they are heading over to where William went just a moment ago, now Victor on the other side is planning to get some favor from William by taking over these guys. In the reception inside the hospital, where there are 2 ladies as the receptionists, a person attends the reception with a gift box in his hand and informs that he is here for a patient named William Roberts, and the receptionist questions about the relationship between William and this man, where her voice is shuddering to speak, and this man replies that he is here visit William, so why is she blocking him from meeting William? Then Victor bows down his head as a greeting and asks if they are looking for his brother William. Victor introduces himself as William's little brother, so he'll lead them to William's ward. As these people are confounded about Victor's statement, Victor is doing this not only for William. As his grandma is now undergoing a surgery, he needs to take these people out of the hospital, so there won't be any commotion inside the hospital, and his grandma's surgery don't get disturbed. Afterwards, Victor and these new people are walking beside the hospital, and now the people got suspicious about where Victor is leading them. They are considering if Victor is a fan of Roronoa Zoro, since he got lost like him. Victor then turns back his head and puts into question if they are here to kill William, and that main leader took out a knife from his suit and is warning Victor to surrender. Then Victor starts to warm up his hands to fight them, yet someone from their backside is speaking what these guys are doing right now. It is William Roberts. He asks why they are pointing a knife towards a high schooler when they are gangsters. And then the side character jumped into action to take down William, when he hurled his fist towards William's forehead and punched right into it. Everyone stood in astonishment, as William didn't even budge a little from that dense punch. Instead, the side character's hand got bruised and is screaming in pain. Then William's side kicked that person, where the side character lost his balance, and when he is in the mid-air, William then aimed his fist into that side character's face and gave one hell of a punch. After seeing this brutality, the gang members froze in fear. Then William is taking off his shirt, believing his time to shine has arrived. Now the main leader jumped into the air with a knife in his hand. However, William ducked down and gave a strike from below the main leader's face, like that the main leader has been taken care of. Then William took hold of the main leader's hair and tossed his body towards a big man, and William then launched his slider at that big man's face, where the big man lost his point of view for a moment, and in that short gap, William pitched himself in the direction of the main leader and gave a boot to the main leader's belly, where even the big man behind him had got blown away by that momentum. Then only the baldy remains in that gang. Then he saw a window beside him. As he grabbed the window and is targeting William, William just gave a jab right from the window to that baldy's face, where the baldy is swept by that pressure and has lost his consciousness. Later sometime in the hospital, William is setting free his hand, feeling that he had gotten a nice warm-up after a long time. He explains, a crew member of the Black Vein Syndicate saw that gang members entering to the hospital and quickly come to inform the news to William. Nevertheless, William is shocked to see that Victor had the guts to take the gang members out of the hospital. Moreover, Victor didn't even flinch while he was being threatened by a knife, which is surprising to William. Victor uncovers. He knew that William would come to his survive, where even Victor saw the Black Vein Syndicate members guarding the hospital. Victor speculates. Even if there is no intervention of Victor, he believes William could easily overpower the gang members with just his crew members alone. Nonetheless, William still appreciates what Victor had done to him by wrapping his arm around Victor. He grants a wish to Victor, where Victor could desire for money or woman for what he had done today, but Victor is planning to make William as his best first tool in his revenge story. So Victor seeks for William to take some of his close underlings whom he trusts so much and hide somewhere for 3 months. William couldn't comprehend why Victor's spouting such nonsense, where he needs to hide somewhere for 3 months, and Victor discloses that the president will declare a war against crime and issue a nationwide arrest order for all the criminal organizations. And hearing those words, William is frozen. The war against crime is something that takes care of all the criminals. It will be issued by the president in October 1990 to prevent public criticism and to shift the political situation due to the regime's various corruptions, while there had been a crackdown on the 5 major crimes over the past year. So the president's announcement of the war against crime will slowly start taking place from next month, which will be on a whole other level compared to everyone's expectations. It is large-scale operation to eradicate criminal organizations and other small organizations that are affiliated with it. So Victor advises William to keep the location a secret, on which it must not be known to the other people from the same organizations except his trusted friends, and he warns William to be careful around his boss too. As such, Victor leaves the place by saying, that's his wish. Now he leaves the decision to William. If William survives in this, he'll be a useful piece for Victor. 1 month later, at Yurisen Mountain, in a small hut, people are listening to a broadcast where a news reporter is reporting about the issuance of war against crime, according to the president's authority. The people who are the closest to William are watching this news and were quite stunned about it, where the announcement on the war against crime has been begun on October 13, 1990, and everyone is baffled about the current situation in Korea, that the police and prosecutors are mobilized, and all organizations in Busan have got caught. William then advises his subordinates to stay here in the hut, without causing a ruckus and finding trouble. William is perplexed to see the newspaper, where everything is going according to what Victor had told him. Tae-san quickly bought a flat at an apartment for Victor and his grandma to stay. As Victor's grandma is worrying about them having this house for free, Victor tells her not to be worried. He explains that he got this house as a gift from his grandpa who met him after 17 years, and divulges that he even got the living expenses, so his grandma can stay at the home relaxing, and don't have to struggle anymore. Yet his grandma is still uneasy at something, and Victor reassures her, his grandma went through so much in order to raise him all alone, so she deserves more than this. Like that, both of Victor's friends have joined in Victor's housewarming party by bringing in some pork belly, where they are celebrating this with a lot of enjoyment by forgetting all their worries. The next day at school, all of James' worries have started to commence, as the test grades are being posted today, and Park Sandal is laughing from aside, seeing James' pathetic face. James then starts arguing, where he believes Park is also on the level as him in studies, and Park debates that he is better than James's puny brain, and James disputes that he in the top 500 out of 520 students, and Park declares that he is 451 out of 520. Likewise, the both of them are quarreling nonstop, and Park puts into question if Victor is feeling confident about the test results, since he worked hard this time. Then Victor with an innocent face states that he just improved a little bit compared to last time, and believes that he needs to work harder. But on the inside, Victor smirks like a demon, where he is pretty confident about him getting the best results. When they entered in the classroom, a student then announces that Victor had ranked first the tests, where James is shocked to death, that Victor who had always roamed around the Busan with him and Park, yet Victor got first in the test. Then another kid comes into the class and calls out for Victor, as AA is looking for Victor in the teacher's office. James considers, Victor might be going to get a prize from AA for getting first place. Nonetheless, Victor feels somewhat uncomfortable about this summoning. In the teacher's office, AA asks if Victor knows the reason why he called him. Nevertheless, Victor stood there with a blank face. Then instantly AA gets up from his chair and gave a tight slap to Victor. To which Victor's friends and classmates are shocked, and AA questions Victor once more. If Victor knows about the reason why AA had called, Victor can't figure why AA treating him like this, so he tells him that he don't know about it. Then immediately AA slapped Victor one more time, and now exposes that Victor had cheated in the exams by pointing his finger at Victor. AA questions as to how someone who is in the last place in the entire school in the first semester, suddenly getting a first place in the whole school in the second semester. Victor recalls why AA is acting this way. A few days ago, in the AA's private room, AA briefs in that he saw Victor's grandfather who came in a foreign car, so AA forces Victor to introduce his grandpa to him, since he is Victor's homeroom teacher. Yet Victor ponders that AA is a piece of trash, so he gets up from his seat and states that his grandfather lives in Seoul. So if AA wants to form a relationship with his grandpa, then AA should head to Seoul first. As AA wants to speak something, Victor just bows his head and takes his leave without even hearing what AA is trying to say, and that's the reason behind AA's abusing. AA then takes out his weapon, the metal bat. He asks if Victor is the only one cheated, or he even helped others in this too. Victor, by sharpening his eyes, declares that he didn't cheat in the test. Then AA pulls up his sleeve by thinking that he is some main character. He said that Victor's grandma should have taught Victor how to cheat in exams. A volcano had erupted from Victor from hearing those harsh words, but he controlled himself. Then AA raised his hand once again to punish Victor, and Victor this time opened his mouth and demands an apology from AA for what he had spoken about Victor's grandma. Even so, AA still strikes Victor, and he is even attempting to tear off Victor's test papers as a punishment for Victor by mentioning that he is going to mark 0 in all the test papers. Furthermore, from starting today, Victor will be suspended indefinitely. Then Victor places a bet against AA, in which Victor will start solving answers to all the questions right in front of the teachers, and if he were to don't score the same marks this time, he will drop out of the school. But if he did, AA needs to resign his job, get out of this school forever. Without letting Victor speak anymore, AA raised his bat to beat Victor. Nevertheless, Victor just blocked the bat and questions if AA is not confident in himself. As Victor's classmates are watching the thrilling scene with a lot of twists and suspenses, Victor inside the teacher's office is solving the question papers, and AA is sweating all over his head by scrutinizing Victor's papers, where he perfectly scored 100 out of 100 in every subject. Then a master from behind informs Victor is solving the last paper at this moment, so if Victor were to score full marks in it, AA needs to get out of the school. Victor then apprises that he is solving the last question right now, so Victor is still giving AA a chance, that if AA apologizes to Victor immediately, Victor will consider stop solving these questions and heads back to his classroom. In that moment, AA is gritting his teeth and his nerves are puffing out of his forehead with tension and anger filled in his face. Then the principal recommends AA to stop this commotion and tells AA to apologize to Victor right this instant, since Victor is their school student, so they should congratulate him instead of suspecting him like this. As all the teachers are looking as to what AA will do, AA then steps forward and apologizes to Victor for what he had done without even looking directly into Victor's eyes. Victor then slams his pen on the table and heads back to his classroom. As he is walking out of the office and entered the hallway, every student moved aside and made a way for Victor to walk, as if all the animals are giving way to a silent dragon. Then everyone celebrated a lot for what it showed to them, where a backbencher won against an undisciplined teacher. As everyone is looking at scoreboard or marks board, Victor Blackwood is on the top position. His friends are still discussing about how AA's face had totally screwed up. Both James and Park are a bit surprised to still believe that Victor is the college topper. Then Victor stops walking and looks at his friends. He advocates James to start studying seriously and Park to restart his judo career that Park had paused. According to Victor's future information, James's grades had been fairly better in middle school, and later James chose a vocational school to follow his passion, where if James had pursued liberal arts education, his life would have been different. The same goes for Park, where Park was a promising candidate in judo, but he joined in this school even though it didn't have sports team, only for the sake of his friendship with Victor and James, that he don't want to get separated from them. James then reveals that he had no interest in studying, so he is planning to take over his dad's nightclub, whereas Park is preparing to work at some factory. Then Victor wraps his arms around James and Park with a smile on his face. He converses that in the near future, he needs to do something in Seoul, so he needs the support of both his friends, since doing alone might be a bit hard for him. So he sets a goal for his friendship, where all the three of them will work hard on their passion and move to Seoul together. Victor is doing this although he knew the future only because of one thing, where it is essential for him to trust his back to someone trustworthy, like how Tae-san had Jackson Blaze. A few months later, Victor focused on his studies, where he scored another first rank in the second semester final exams. James' grades weren't so high, but compared to previous tests, they have improved steadily, and Park had started his judo training once again, and naturally everything fell into exactly as Victor's predicted. In winter season, where the snow is falling heavily, Victor is looking up high at something as he dropped from the car. He is back again to the Wilder family, to the impregnable fortress. Taesan's fortress is located in Seoul at most influential and affluent areas in the whole South Korea. Inside the mansion, Tae-san and Victor are both having dinner at the dining table. Victor is pondering that this scenario had never happened in his past life. So if Tae-san had just suddenly summoned Victor by altering the future can only mean one thing. It is that Tae-san's evaluation over Victor must have changed. Then in the hallway, as Tae-san is having a cup of coffee, he communicates that he heard about Victor's academic result, where Victor had scored 2 consecutive first ranks in semesters. Then he puts down the cup and briefs in that he now had some hopes on Victor, since he felt like Victor is not just boasting the last time they met. Thus, he believes in Victor's collateral now. So Tae-san now is happy that he is presenting Victor a gift, where Victor can just wish for anything. Victor then mentions he will only receive a gift from his grandfather when he attends the Korean university. Tae-san knew about what Victor had said last time, but he now wants to present something this instant to Victor to congratulate him. Victor figured out that Tae-san is trying to imitate a kind grandfather role, so he plans to ask for some allowance, without getting greedy. Then he wishes for some company shares, and Tae-san questions if Victor had even a little knowledge stock market, and Victor responds that he don't know much about them, so that is why he is seeking them from an expert like his grandpa. Victor wished for stocks rather than money, because he could gain some interest from his grandpa, and his grandpa will definitely hand over stocks without rejecting. As he imagined, Tae-san is happy for what Victor had requested. Then he immediately questioned Jackson about their stake in Dayan Cooperation, and Jackson answered, it is 4%. Then Tae-san granted all 4% of stocks he had within Dahyun to Victor, by even paying the taxes and other additional charges related to stocks. Victor is bewildered to hear the name Dayan, since that company is the biggest conglomerate in South Korea. A conglomerate means a company that rules over other small companies that work below it. However, that Dayan company got split up after the founder's death, and it still holds unimaginable value, where even if one person had the money in their hands, they won't receive the stocks that easily. Then he instantly appreciates his grandpa for granting him such a big gift. Then someone from backside calls Tae-san as dad. And when Victor turns his head at that direction, it is John Wilder and his wife Sarah Wilder, along with his son Rome Wilder, and with his brother Johnson Wilder. John inquires if Victor is Dania's son, and as Victor is standing face to face without even bowing down his head, and imaging that these very people might have the reason for death. Then Tae-san informs Victor that they all are Victor's uncles, and now Victor bows his head to respect his uncles and auntie. Then John grabs Victor's shoulder gently, and soothes him that Victor could call them if he needs any help. As you have seen in the middle of the video, I mentioned a character called Lloyd Frontera. This character is a civil engineering student who get transported to another magical world, where the civilization about the buildings and construction is ancient technology. Lloyd starts using his civil engineering brain, and with his extraordinary mind to fool any kind of person in the manhwa, and he torture them with his menacing smile. This manhwa is an absolute banger, where the humor is on a whole other level, that there is no other manhwa in this world with this level of humor. So if you want me to make a recap of this mind-blowing manhwa, just comment in the comment section, and I will be sure to do the recap for you. So until then, watch other masterpieces recaps that I have made in the meanwhile, and be sure to stay safe and subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching.